So if he is not ultimately confirmed because of these allegations, you may take legal action against the person at the center of that agreement.
Absolutely.
Ernst's ex-husband, Gail, accused her of having an affair with one of her soldiers while she was deployed as a company commander.
And as long as Donald Trump wants me in this fight, I'm going to be standing right here in this fight, fighting to bring our Pentagon back to what it needs to be.
Pete Hegseth going on offense. His attorney, this fella, you may recognize him, Tim Parlatore, who used to represent President Trump, is now saying if any accuser of Pete Hegseth wants to come out and speak, well, they're not bound by an NDA. They're free to come do that. But they better be careful, because when they speak, they're going to be held accountable for their words. And they might be facing a defamation lawsuit and serious repercussions coming their way. We'll see what Tim says, and then we'll come back, because President Trump and J.D. Vance are doubling down on their support for Pete. But here was the exchange on with Caitlin Collins and Tim Parlatore on CNN.
Today that Pete Hegseth has done is denying that allegation of sexual assault. That was kind of one of the first things that came up after Trump picked him to be his defense secretary. He has denied it fervently. It was settled in an agreement with this woman in 2017. Yesterday, when you were talking to Jake Tapper, you said that you believe it's extortion. But of course, as you know, extortion is also a crime. So if you felt that it was extortion, why not go to the police at the time?
Well, it was a decision that we made, and the email from the attorney, it was something that I don't know if it quite rises to the level of a criminal extortion that the police would take it on, but I think it certainly does meet the definition under the California law for civil extortion, and it was something that we were considering at the time. And quite frankly, with the violation of the agreement, if he is not confirmed as the Secretary of Defense, we may still bring a civil extortion claim against her.
So if he is not ultimately confirmed because of these allegations, you may take legal action against the person at the center of that agreement.
Absolutely. If the false claims of somebody that was part of an extortion that was then put out in violation of a settlement agreement ultimately causes him to lose his future employment opportunities, then yes, that is something that is worth bringing a lawsuit against her and her friend and potentially even the attorney for, yes.
We've heard some people say that she should be released from that non-disclosure agreement that was part of the settlement agreement. Is there any consideration between you or Mr. Hegseth of doing that?
Well, so first of all, it's not a non-disclosure agreement. It's something where one party agrees not to disclose. This is a confidential settlement agreement that had confidentiality on both sides. That agreement has since been breached by her. And so as a result, I sent notice to her attorney that that agreement is no longer has any force and effect. That's one of the reasons why I can talk about it here, because prior to that, the agreement prevented Mr. Hegseth from talking about her conduct. So there is no NDA to release her from. And if she wants to go and talk about it, she can do it. I mean, certainly she would do it at her own peril of a further defamation lawsuit. And additionally,
well, that's news.
NDAs,
we didn't. People have been calling for her to be able to speak. You're his attorney. You're saying that from the agreement which you negotiated, that she can come out and speak on CNN or wherever she chooses?
Of course. However, if she doesn't tell the truth, if she repeats these false statements, then she will be subject to a defamation lawsuit. But no, she's well aware of that. Her attorney was well aware that because of the breach of the agreement, that is no longer in any force and effect. She is free to speak if she wants. I've heard people saying, we should release her so she can testify before the committee. There is no such thing as an NDA that prohibits somebody from complying with a subpoena.
Okay, so you're saying that she could be. You're saying she could be released. In terms of settlement agreements, is that the only?
No, I'm saying she's already been released. She released herself.
Right. Is that the only settlement agreement that Pete Hegseth has signed with a woman?
Yes. Obviously, divorce settlements, but this is the only one.
Okay, so they are going on offense, and that is a good frame for this, because there is a big conversation on the left that they're trying to cover up something, right? He paid her off, so this could all go away. And he's saying, no, let her out. Just come talk about it. Now, Hegseth is going to be getting an FBI background check, as you can see. CNN reporting that. Attorney also said that. Name has been submitted. He got the forms. We're working on them right now. Hegseth is a military veteran, remains defiant, says CNN. Says, I'm expecting the background check is going to take a lot of the false stories that have been circulated, put them to bed. Not going to worry about it. Hegseth faces a tough confirmation process because of people like Joni Ernst, who were in favor of appointing Lloyd Austin and many others. She was out saying, yeah, I sat down with him. It was a frank conversation, but I want to be at the DOD, so I'm not going to support him. Here's Joni.
Well, I did have a very long, lengthy discussion with Pete yesterday, and I do appreciate his service to the nation. I also a combat veteran. So we talked about a number of those issues, and we will continue with the vetting process. I think that that is incredibly important. So again, all I'm saying is we had a very frank and productive discussion, and I know know that we will continue to have conversation in the upcoming months.
Is there a date certain for his confirmation hearing?
I have not heard that yet. The incoming chairman will be Senator Roger Wicker, and so that will be established between the chair, I'm understanding, and the nominee.
Okay, it doesn't sound on your answer that you've gotten to a yes. If I'm wrong about that, correct me. And if that is the case, it sounds to me as if the hearing will be critical for his nomination. Am I right about that?
I think you are right. I think for a number of our senators, they want to make sure that any allegations have been cleared, and that's why we have to have a very thorough vetting process. And that's why I was happy to sit down with Pete and have that conversation with him yesterday. So again, all I will say at this time is that we did have a very thorough discussion over a number of those issues, and the vetting will continue, I am certain, through the next month or so until we approach that hearing.
All right, senator out of Iowa. It's not some Democrat who's making it difficult. It's a Republican senator out of Iowa. Chuck Grassley would be ashamed. Now, here is what JD says. You know, led by President Trump, we're fighting for Pete Hegseth, all right? And we're doing so because Pete Hegseth will fight for our troops. For too long, the Pentagon has been led by people who lose wars. Pete Hegseth is a man who fought in those wars. We've got his back. President Trump said the same thing. Said Pete Hegseth is doing very well. His support is strong and deep, much more so than the fake news would have you believe. He was a great student, Princeton, Harvard educated, with a military state of mind. He will be a fantastic, high-energy Secretary of Defense, one who leads with charisma and skill. Pete is a winner, and there is nothing that can be done to change that. And Pete said in response, thank you, Mr. President. Like you, we will never back down. Fight, fight, fight. Now, here is what J.D. Vance said when he was out on the streets.
Pete Hegseth is going to get his appearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee, not a sham hearing before the American media. We believe that Pete Hegseth is the right guy to lead the Department of Defense. That's why President Trump nominated him. We're not abandoning this nomination. We're not going to make it easy for people to allow the new Secretary of Defense is Donald J. Trump, who just won an election by a very significant consent of the United States Senate. That's who determines who the Secretary of Defense is. I fully support Pete. I think Pete's going to get confirmed, and we are completely behind him. I have talked to Joni. I've talked to a number of my colleagues about this nomination and about other nominations. All I'm asking is that people actually allow the Senate process to work. We do not determine important government officials based on anonymous sourcing from the American media. We determine who our officials are through the nomination process, the advice and consent process of the United States Senate. That's how it should happen, and that's how the president's nominees are going to work through this process.
All right, so they're standing firm. Good for them. And Joni is not. Apparently, she's waging a personal war and very aggressive about it, too. They're reporting here from the Federalist that the nominee is being attacked by her. A lot happening, saying a Trump person is saying she's waging a campaign to replace Pete with herself. What a surprise. When pressed on Wednesday by The Hill's Alex Bolton on whether she's interested in becoming the defense secretary, Ernst didn't give a direct answer. She says, well, Pete's the nominee for now. Within the past few days, Hegseth has come under scrutiny. Some woman from 2017, another 2019 report. Ernst has denied the allegations. Wait, what's this? Oh! Ernst has also come under fire with allegations of an inappropriate extramarital relationship. According to 2019 in court documents, Ernst's ex-husband, Gail, accused her of having an affair with one of her soldiers while she was deployed as a company commander. Wow. So she's going to come after Pete for philandering or something, and her own husband had to divorce her for her infidelities. Ernst has denied the allegations. So has Pete! Sources told the Federalist that Ernst began calling Trump within the last 2 days, threatening to get all the female senators to vote against Hegseth if the president-elect didn't pull his nomination. When asked when exactly Ernst called Trump this week to deliver her anti-Hegseth ultimatum, a source in Trump world sighed and said, gosh, oh, Joni? Yeah, it wasn't just one time. She's constantly calling and nagging him. Sounds like it. Ernst is not working alone either. Another source said that Lindsey Graham, over the weekend called Trump to nag him too, to ditch Hegseth and replace him with Ernst. Oh my gosh. Graham gave credence to the slanderous allegations against Hegseth. Well, you know, I do find those very disturbing. Lindsey Graham is one of the worst people in our government. I think some of these articles are very disturbing, he says. He has a chance to defend himself. Some of the things have to be addressed, and we'll see. Well, a lot of people say a lot of interesting things about Lindsey Graham too, and about like how he dresses and stuff like that. So I wonder if maybe we should explore those things too. Some of these things have to be addressed. We should have Lindsey Graham address the rumors and address the nickname Lady Graham. Where'd that come from, Lindsay? You should address that immediately. Ernst's office did not respond to the Federalist request for immediate comment, of course. Well, you can see those two are two peas in a pod. They shouldn't be anywhere near the DOD because all they would do is have more war on behalf of Ukraine, and we're sick of that. Now, here's Chip Roy, who says that Pete Hegseth is well worthy of the position and speaks in support of him.
I agree with Pete Hegseth that wokeism is destroying the United States military. I agree with Pete that we don't need to have endless wars. I agree with Pete that we ought to have somebody who's served in battle and understands it, who's at the top of the Pentagon, rather than the brass who, frankly, often like their ribbons more than actually doing the work that is necessary to defend this country. I like the fact that we have people that the president is nominating that will take on the establishment and take on, for example, the FBI with Kash Patel.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is we have senators who are wanting to challenge it. For example, the senator from Iowa who's going after Pete Hegseth, or seemingly being critical. Same individual, by the way, says and voted for an NDAA that would draft our daughters and has been fighting to draft our daughters. And I tell her, you'll do that over my dead body. There will be no draft of my daughter. Voted for the Marriage Act to codify gay marriage. Went out to her constituents and talked about how the horrible Senate border bill was somehow a good bill and then scolded President Trump for opposing it. Voted for Garland for AG. Voted for Lloyd Austin for defense. Voted for Buttigieg for DOT.
Yeah.
Voted for Janet Yellen.
Vote for them all.
Voted for Ukraine's borders over America's borders.
Yep.
And with all due respect to the senator from Iowa, you're not where the American people are.
That's right.
President Trump is, and Pete Hegseth is. We have an obligation to change this town or we're going to lose this country. If Republicans do not deliver, if we do not do what we said we would do, this party will end. There will not be a Republican Party if we fail in this term.
Do not squander
this
it.
Congress
Do not.
to deliver.
Do not.
That's not hyperbole. It's true. We will go the way of the Whigs. We will secure the border. We will return order to our streets. We will cut spending. We will move towards balancing our budgets. We will nominate and confirm, as the president has nominated, we will confirm people who will change this town, take on the bureaucracy. We will listen to and work with Elon and Vivek, root out the waste and fraud, but do it ourselves. Pass bills that actually get the job done. We will undo the damage of the Biden administration, replace it with a legacy that our kids and grandkids can be proud of. Root out the wokeism, root out all of the DEI and the critical race theory. Kill it now. We will do these things or we will not exist. And we will organize ourselves as a conference to do those things or we won't succeed. Our job between now, first week of December, and the first week of January is to get our heads in the right places.
Yes.
They currently aren't there.
That's right. Take them out.
We are not structured right now to deliver, and we have 1 month to do it. That is my calling. We are not here to take breaks. We are not here for Codels. We are not here for trips. We are here to get the job done.
Don't squander it. Trump's not running again, so there's not going to be another MAGA momentum on a bunch of milquetoast Joni Ernst Republicans who want endless war the next cycle. So they better figure it out and decide what this party is about. Otherwise, they're not going to be long for this country. And Pete Hegseth is part of the team who's coming in to make these reforms happen. Here's what he said addressing the media.
I'm proud of what I fought for. I'm not going to back down from them one bit. I will answer all of these senators' questions, but this will not be a process tried in the media. I don't answer to anyone in this group, none of you, not to that camera at all. I answer to President Trump, who received 76 million votes on behalf and a mandate for change. I answer to the 100 senators who are part of this process and those in the committee, and I answer to my Lord and Savior and my wife and my family. I'm proud to be here, and as long as Donald Trump wants me in this fight, I'm going to be standing right here in this fight, fighting to bring our Pentagon back to what it needs to be.
What have your conversation?
All right, that's Pete Hegseth. So we'll see. They're in it, Trump and J.D. Vance and Pete, saying, let's do this thing. So Joni Ernst and the rest of the Republicans can get on board, or they'll have to face the consequences for that.